Hello. Welcome to All the Way Down, number 13. I'm Dash. Knox is here. Knox is a little sick, though, aren't you?
Just with allergies. And kind of at the thought that I just realized I never updated any video things here, except it looks like you might actually already have. It says we're doing something this week called Todd Togers.
Yes. So, yeah, you picked a good week to be a little sick because strap yourself in. I've got a story to tell you. Yeah, I mean, we can just jump right into it. So you've never heard of this man, Todd Rogers?
No, but you did bring up another name that did sound familiar.
Yeah. There's another name that will also become that most people, a lot of people have heard of. That'll become important. So, what I want to talk about has to do with the world of old video game records and the
Oh,
idea of like before speed running was really a thing, there was
yeah, you
like
mean like timing records, not like music.
correct. Yes. So before there was speed running, there was, people trying to get the best scores in old games, right? And, for a long time, there wasn't anyone really keeping track of it. There were like certain publishers and stuff would make newsletters where they would post scores of some of their games. Like Activision had a newsletter where they posted, certain like, send in your Polaroids of your game scores, and they would like
Yeah,
post who did the best and that kind of thing. But
that's
at some
cool.
point, yeah. And at some point, there needed to be kind of an authority for it. And that authority became a site called Twin Galaxies, if you've ever heard of them. That's like the site that, well, it wasn't originally a website, because this was the 80s. It was just the kind of the people who sort of became in charge of it. And so here's kind of what happened. This all started, I want to say, like 3 years ago, maybe like 4 years ago. Some things started to come out. Mainly, there's this Atari game. This is at least how I got introduced to this world. Um, or just this long running story is that there was this Atari game called Dragster. Dragster is a very simple game where you start it, there's a little countdown, your dragster is on top, the opponent, which might be a second player or a computer, is on the bottom, and all you have to do is I think you use like the button for the gas, and then you use the stick to like shift. And
This is
so
like
you
Top Fuel Drag Racer, like the straight up in a
Yep.
line giant rocket
Yep.
cars, everything. Yeah,
Yeah, and this is an Atari game, so it's like
nice.
your dragster is just on top and theirs is on bottom. It goes to the right, and all you got to do is just gas and shift and try to get the best time that you can, right?
All right.
Super simple game. Way back when, in like 1983, a record was set of 5.51 seconds by the one that was on Twin Galaxies that stood for so long was Todd Rogers, and he and Guinness recognized the record where it at some
Oh,
point.
I didn't even think about that. Did,
um
did Guinness have like a video game section or anything that they were doing?
so like yes and no.
Because how is
at
that not the website for speedrunners right now?
Right. So, Guinness relied on Twin Galaxies at some point. Basically, Twin Galaxies like was the authority, and for certain things that they printed, I think so I've heard a lot of different stories at this point, and it's hard to figure out which ones are bullshit because if you go back to like 83 when this record was recognized by Twin Galaxies and they were saying that it was Guinness approved, it wasn't actually in the Guinness book. but the Guinness book had like a blurb in it. This is like the 83 book, I think. It said something like, hey, we don't do game scores. Check out Twin Galaxies. Like it addresses the fact that like that kind of the reason that Guinness didn't want to do video games is because, well, maybe like everybody's controller is a little different, and that kind of thing. And they were just saying like the environment is always a little different, and
I would
so
say
they just
back
kind of
then that's probably a little bit more valid because, like, in the video game, especially the Atari area, or era, I know that a lot of the controllers are known to fail like left and right. Like their sticks are utter shit. So I can see the plausibility of that.
Yeah, and you also have to just like the way that you have to do it as far as like having a referee there if necessary. Otherwise, you're relying on like videotapes or Polaroids or that kind of thing.
Which is actually honestly probably better evidence though. It's concrete, right?
Polaroids, yeah. Because you can't doctor a Polaroid. But I'd have to think about it, as far as we'll talk about it.
I mean, Stalin doctored many a real photo. I don't know. You could probably edit photos. I mean, you think you'd take it to a Photoshop?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, is in 1980, I don't even know.
But they didn't really have a good way of like confirming real records with like a group of people, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, a lot of the time it was based on a referee. Or a photograph, right? So here's the thing about Dragster though, is that record stood for so long where Guinness did, and I forgive me if I'm getting any of these details wrong because it's all third, fourth hand, and there's a lot of lies going around along with the truth. But I believe at one point Guinness recognized Todd Rogers specifically as having the longest standing video game world record of all time. That Dragster world record stood forever and was never beaten. And so it was the longest standing record of all time. So, a couple people picked up the game more recently, like 4 or 5 years ago. I mostly started hearing about it like 3 years ago, so maybe it was about 4 years ago. And they started to, real like no one could beat this score, this 5.51 seconds. A guy who goes by OmniGamer got particularly interested in the game to the point where I don't know exactly how he acquired the source code, but he managed to look at the game's source code. And famously, at this point, the game is less than 100 lines of code.
Wow.
And so when I say source code, I think that might actually not even be a good term, because I don't know if source code even exists back then. Atari games might have been programmed directly in assembly. And if that's the case, I don't know if there even is necessarily a source code. I'm not sure.
Could you explain that? Could you elaborate just a tiny bit? Why would a game not have source code?
If it was I'm also slightly ignorant on this subject, but I believe when you are programming in something like C or JavaScript, it's very like human friendly language, while this, if this, that kind of thing. There's lots of just like the name of this variable equals this value and that kind of thing, right? It's something that a human would write, a human would read and understand.
This is assembly?
Now, this is like C or JavaScript or something like that. Now that is source code. That is a human typed it with their human fingers. Now, when you compile code, you've heard of that. They compile it, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that means yet, though.
So a compiler takes that source code and it drops it essentially like reprograms it into a lower level code that is able to actually be interpreted by like a processor, you know? And so that's a lower level code. So if you look at assembly, for example, assembly doesn't deal with like names of variables and stuff like that. It is very base level instructions for a processor to do things, as in like recall this value from this memory address,
Yeah.
right? Then add 1 to it, then store it at this memory address, right? And it's like it is extremely like it's what a computer thinks, you know? Meanwhile, like even if you're good at programming with C and JavaScript and you know all about that, you know, about that, you look at assembly and you're like, yeah, you need to it would take forever to like analyze what this shit actually does, right? So at some point, like you can take you've probably heard of like hex editors and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I've used them.
Yeah, because that's where you're dealing with the compiled code, right? It compiles it into like binary or hex or that kind of thing, which you know, is that very low level thing, which you can glean very little out of as a person, even if you're able to look at the binary, right? You need like tools and shit to really dig in to figure anything out about it, you know?
A notepad full of 8-bit binary codes isn't going to tell me shit.
Right. But now if you have the source code, you know, then you're looking at like the original if statements and all that and like, oh yeah, okay, that's how they did it, you know.
Okay.
So that's like the difference there.
Yeah, so what you're basically trying to say, I guess, from what I gather, is Guinness didn't have a way to validate if certain actions may have taken place inside of a game because they don't know what's happening in the game.
Well, I'm kind of getting off Guinness here for a minute.
Okay.
I'm talking about, so there was this guy, OmniGamer. I wish I knew how he obtained the code for the game. Like I'm saying, it might be a case of games back then were so low level already that they didn't have source code. And maybe if you look at the hex of the ROM, you can reverse engineer it or something. Maybe,
Yeah,
not
maybe.
sure. But the game's got 100 lines of code, right? And he analyzes this code and determines. Remember that 5.51 was the unbroken record? He determines that this is actually impossible. You cannot get a 5.51 in Dragster. It is actually impossible. And he has a really good YouTube video of it where, being that this is a very simple game and we're talking about a game that runs at 60 FPS and is 6 seconds long, right? So he was able to like take the game's code and create like an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, nice.
Where on the left columns you can just input the inputs that you can just enter the inputs on every frame that you want, you know? And the spreadsheet will update to tell you what time you get, you know, if you were to put in those inputs.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and using all this knowledge of it, he determined that a 5.57 is the best possible time. So
Can I ask if this is quarter mile time or what's the
I
distance you're
don't.
racing in that game?
Oh, I don't know. I
Because
never even thought about it.
Because a top fuel dragster will for sure do at least twice what twice is better than a Tesla doing two times as worse. I'm mathing my head wrong here, but 5.57 is not that great if it's a 0 to 60 time in a quarter mile. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. I got no idea.
Yeah.
So anyway, OmniGamer releases this information, right? And a lot of other people look at it and test it, and at this point, there's, you know, a few more eyes on it, and everyone seems to be agreeing, yeah, this isn't correct. But
Can I
Twin
interrupt you real quick?
Galaxies.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out that I realized how absurd it was, the notion that you would measure a top fuel dragster race by how fast they get to 60 when they basically do 1,000 miles an hour.
I was thinking about that,
Yeah.
but I was like, I don't know enough to fight you on this.
Never mind. Go ahead.
So Twin Galaxies, though, they kind of see this evidence and they're like, nah, it's legit. You know, we talked to Todd and he says that Activision recognizes it as true. And the game's programmer, original programmer gets involved at some point, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. When I program he's speaking very, not in absolutes. He's just kind of saying, the game's programmer says like, I don't know. When I programmed the game, I thought that like 5.54 would be the best. So I don't know, if he got a little bit better, it wouldn't surprise me, And like, that's basically what he said,
Yeah.
Which also, if you think about it, means that if it turns out that you can't do quite that well, it would be equally as likely, right? But anyway, so yeah. So it kind of becomes this whole thing where people are digging up like some old forum posts of Todd Rogers, like explaining about how he does it. And he speaks in like this he sounds like a guy that's like 60 now, who just kind of speaks in sort of a rambly way, and like is not very coherent as far as like forum posts go. He's basically saying like, I don't know. He's saying that he's got like a tech, right? His secret tech is that he starts the game in second gear. I give some fuel to my dragster and I pop the clutch on 0 already in second gear, and that's how I did it. And everyone's like, none of those words made sense, what you just said. Like, you literally cannot do that in the game. It's not a feature. And there are just a few more things like that, right? Of just like his different stories of how he did it over the years, as well as different stories of how exactly it happened, or how exactly it was timed. Like at one point they were saying that like, he did it 3 separate times. Activision flew him out to a place and he did it in front of them, and then they went to another place and he did it there too. There were 3 times he did it, That was like the story at one point. Then at another point it was something else. But Twin Galaxies like won't budge on this for some reason.
Sorry,
and it goes on.
My ADD kicked in when you explained the Twin I thought this was actually a game. Is this a company?
Twin Galaxies is the authority on scores. They're like the website you can go to now that keeps track of this shit. That's who apparently Guinness went to say who's the best, right? Okay. Guinness was just like, hey, Twin Galaxies handles video games.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they aren't doing anything about it, and this goes on for like a year. I feel like, of just like, what silly shit did Todd say now about this, or what other thing has been found. It's interesting because there's a lot of people defending Todd Rogers, because apparently a lot of people knew his name and was like, yeah, that's like the gaming legend, Todd Rogers. He has all kinds of world records.
Just kind of sounds like an epic name too.
Yeah,
Buck
and like,
Rogers.
and he talks about how he's Mr. Activision, but
that kind of hurt to listen to.
Oh, dude, with Activision nowadays, I don't know if anyone wants to be Mr. Activision nowadays, but back in the Atari days, they were killing it, dude.
All right.
But yeah, and like people, okay, so he was even interviewed about just like the way this guy talks, man. He was interviewed about the OmniGamer thing, where they were saying like, hey, this guy looked at the numbers and looked at the code and mathematically determined that your score is impossible. What do you say to that? And he's just like, first of all, one of his responses is, well, you weren't there. Maybe if you came and you had seen it back in '83, you'd be impressed. was like one of his answers. It's like, all right, Todd. And then his other answer was, I shit you not, I really need to get the wording here. He said something about how like, well, that's just a bunch of numbers and gobbledygook, and he said like, you can put the numbers into the spreadsheet, but that doesn't factor in the human element of how the game is going to respond. I need to let that sink in for a
How
second.
can 100 lines of code respond?
With the human element. The human element of the Atari.
In the video game.
You're forgetting about the little man in your Atari that's running the thing, and he makes a mistake every once in a while.
Sometimes we have to shock him with the cattle prod to keep turning the hamster wheel, and then he gets going.
Oh, so it's just every time the guy talks, it's just bullshit, you know? So here's the deal, though. Okay, so people are defending him because of all of his other scores. And so people start looking into his other scores. Okay, let's look at his Twin Galaxy scores. Turns out this guy had like 1,000 world records on Twin Galaxies, which is
fishy,
immediately suspicious.
Yeah.
But people start looking into them and realizing a lot of these scores are impossible. Sometimes for like really dumb reasons. It turns out the dragster one is like uncanny in how like maybe not, you know, that like maybe it's defensible. Maybe we just didn't get it and we're off by a frame in our calculations. Maybe, but some of this other shit is like, there's one game where like one of the big ones early on was like Barnstorming. Barnstorming is a game where you're flying a plane and you gotta avoid like birds and windmills and shit. So you just gotta fly up and down to avoid the obstacles, right?
Flappy Bird.
But if you fly up and down, you move slower. So you want to be moving just straight as much as possible, right? People hacked the game to remove all of the obstacles. So all you do is fly straight. And under those circumstances, you still couldn't get the score that Todd submitted. There's some other really stupid ones. Like
this is
there was
still
one
mid-80s,
game,
right?
Nah, this is, a lot of these scores were submitted back then, yes.
Okay, so do you think this guy was ever like, who cares if I'm lying? And no one, not the entire world can't know about this stupid shit.
I think he thought that for 30 years.
Probably.
Like one other example, there was one game where his score was something like, it doesn't matter what the score was, but it ended in a 3, right? It was something with the ones digit was 3. But in this game, all the scoring is done in increments of 5. So it just never happens. You can't get a score like that.
How do you fuck that up?
So that's when you start wondering that. And at that point, it's like, okay, this guy's got 1,000 scores. Records. Some of them are impossible if you do research. Some of them are impossible if you do 1 second of research. Some of them are just are possible, but you'd have to be up for like 7 days straight playing the game in order to get that score. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got 33 billion in Galaxian. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, you were playing the game for a week straight without breaks?
No, I just got that mysterious 200,000x multiplier bonus.
So at some point you start to piece together that it seems like the evidence strongly suggests, okay, also there's one more extremely important detail that comes up. Todd Togers was a referee for Twin Galaxies.
Oh, that's why.
Himself.
Yep. Okay.
So you put all the pieces together, and all the evidence would strongly suggest that this guy, he just went down the list and punched a bunch of scores in for a bunch of games and just said he was the best at everything. And he was a referee at the site, and everyone liked him, and so it just stood for a long ass time with a bunch of games that no one cares about.
So I don't know this name, but you know this name. How famous is this guy's name even still today?
So I hadn't heard of him until the dragster thing.
Because I was going to say, like, there's a certain degree of people's success that can come from infamy. If they're just doing something now, they got infamous, like, by doing some stupid shit, and it, like, jump-started their career. So I wonder if this was his idea of that.
Absolutely, it seems like it. The idea was that, like, and I mean, he's said that in interviews also. The idea that, like, so because Dragster was the first one, sort of, where it was like that, you know, Activision had like a little competition about it, you know, and he was like, well, you know, if I just say that my score was really good, then Activision will, you know, I'll get attention. And so. And yeah, I mean, I think yeah, he ended up being at shows a lot and that kind of thing, and being a referee for Twin Galaxies and all that. So
I'm just thinking of that meme from the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like you're the worst gamer I've ever heard of, but you have heard of me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is we're kind of getting to that, because here's what I was gonna say is, I hadn't heard of him until this controversy, but I was born in 1990. It seems like when this stuff started to come out, there's a lot of people who have heard of him and just always thought of, like, yeah, there's that, you know, that was that legendary Atari guy, you know, that was really good at everything.
I feel like the people who do know this guy's name, or at least did back in that day, there's probably a lot of people that got shoved into lockers.
You know,
it was that time.
So eventually, all this starts to, like, really pick up steam on YouTube and stuff. Like, people who, like one of the first things I saw about it actually was it was just lumped into like a video that was 15 different people, right? Apollo Legend made a video that was like, here's 15 different speedrunners who were caught cheating, right? And that was a video he made that was just kind of going through all these people, and Todd Rogers was just one of them, you know? And that's about how much steam it had at one point. And this was kind of a big thing for me, because that was the first Apollo Legend video I saw. And that, like, kind of opened me up to like looking into this kind of stuff, because I think that it's a really interesting subject when you get into that side of speedrunning and, like, the dark side of it, you know. Some of that stuff is really interesting. And so it kind of led me into that, right? But at some point, though, the Todd Rogers thing specifically, especially when, like, all those other, like, 1,000 bullshit scores started coming up, that's when it started really gaining steam and being its own story. And that's when I think a lot of people like me, who have been born in 1990 and on, have heard of his name now, but as that guy, you know, not
anything to be revered.
Right. So at some point, basically, because Twin Galaxies was, like, you know, everyone is starting to say, like, Twin Galaxies is a joke if they're not taking action against this guy. Eventually, he actually ended up on the Ben Heck show.
What? That's a name I know, and I feel like not a lot. Well, actually, I feel like the people who may be finding this episode know that name, but this guy was, first of all, hang on. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right person here. We're talking about the electronics engineer on YouTube, right?
Yes.
He had a show where he had people on? I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah, on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. It's called The Ben Heck Show. He has a really good episode about restoring the Sony PlayStation, or the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yeah, he's a hardware guru from what I understand.
So, yeah, so with Twin Galaxies starting to, like, really look bad, they kind of, it seems like they kind of made the ultimatum of, we're gonna, you know, and Ben Heck has taken interest in it, we're gonna have him settle the score, as far as he's our guy, where it's like, if everyone's into this spreadsheet that OmniGamer made, you know, and they don't want to hear about spreadsheets, they want to hear about real hardware. You got to factor in the human element. So he, So they went to Ben Heck to say, can you jimmy up a thing where we can put values into the spreadsheet and then it's going to pass them into a real Atari, right?
So
And that's
you'd
what Ben Heck
input
did.
via the spreadsheet, and it worked, and the spreadsheet would input to the Atari.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could verify the spreadsheet's accuracy
Yeah.
on a real ass Atari.
Cool.
And and they got Todd Rogers on the show. I would recommend watching it to get a very good idea of the way this guy talks and the way he handles what he's seeing, because they put numbers in the spreadsheet, and of course, to no one's surprise, every single time it's correct. Oh yeah, if we put in these values, this is exactly what happens. So then, and so this is just like the ultimate of Todd just being like, well, yeah, you're having that whole, you should have been there in '83. I did it in front of Activision, that kind of thing. And he plays it. It's kind of funny too, because when any footage of him actually playing the game, a lot of footage of Todd Rogers is just him bullshitting. Anytime that he's actually playing the game, he hardly looks like he knows what the fuck he's doing. But
so
anyway,
he's just talking when he's playing, or
yeah, I'm sure he was pretty good at the game in the '80s.
Probably.
Moving on. At this point, and so that was kind of, the score was settled at that point. Todd Rogers was banned from Twin Galaxies, and all of his scores were revoked.
You can't ban me. I'm the referee.
And then, and so that's kind of how that ended up. And that was sort of the last of it, because very soon after that, another thing happened with another name. Because this was it. This was like, wow, look at this old thing that happened with old retro video game scores. Isn't that crazy? That sure was fun, guys. We found him out. But then there's a guy, Billy Mitchell, who you said that you maybe have heard his name.
Yeah, so Billy Mitchell, I know the name of because I wanted to know why someone who looked like a porn star in the 80s and had a buttload of money was famous in video games. And then I looked into it, and apparently he's just infamous because he, I believe, posted or said he had the high score of, I want to say it was Pac-Man. It was definitely an Atari title. I think it was Pac-Man. And just stating,
I think it was Arcade Pac-Man.
Yeah, okay. So in the mid 80s, was there an alternative to Arcade Pac-Man? Because that's actually one of the things I was going to ask you. The Dragster game you mentioned did you say that was NES?
That was Atari.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Atari. So okay, true. So
the Billy Mitchell stuff is all arcade, though.
My thinking when you said Atari was that it was an Atari or an arcade game, because in the 80s arcades were huge and Atari was big in the arcades, like huge in the arcades.
Oh yeah, Dragster is a Activision game for Atari home console that you play with the shitty little joystick.
Yeah, was it 800 or?
It looks like it's a 2800.
Oh god,
2600. Sorry.
There's a lot of Ataris, actually.
Look, video games started NES for me, all right?
Yeah, same, yeah.
I don't know all the Ataris.
We're a bunch of millennials.
200 and 7800, I think those are the three.
So, yeah, that's actually the thing I was going to say, because, like, Atari has a fuck ton of different, like, model revisions based on just numbers. And, man, we'll talk about this some other time, but, like, Atari, like, internal electronic design is sketchy.
Yeah, I haven't. I would like to have an Atari at some point. It's so weird to me that there's like switches on the system that are control things about the game and stuff.
Hey man, there's a really good console that does that really well. It's called the Sega Master System.
Are you talking about the pause button being on the system?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Got the pause button on the system.
It's an awful design. I don't know why they thought that was okay.
So here's the deal with Billy Mitchell.
Yeah.
So he is very well known, very, very well known arcade player. I believe he was the first person to play a perfect game of Pac-Man.
Oh. Okay, so what's a perfect game of Pac-Man?
So Pac-Man infamously has a kill screen, which means when you get to a certain level, the game code can't handle loading the level because, like, with the way that the numbers work, they never expected someone to get to this level.
There's not a digit that'll let you roll over, essentially.
Exactly. So I believe it's level 256, as you would imagine.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. There is an overflow somewhere in the binary, and it causes the game to, when it tries to draw the level, it freaks out and draws like a bunch of scramblies everywhere, and the level is incompletable, and you automatically lose, right? So so that means that the game has an end, right? So there is a maximum score that you can get in Pac-Man. There is a very best that you can possibly do. You can get every single point in the entire game because at one point it ends, right? So a perfect game of Pac-Man is getting literally the best score you absolutely possibly can before you hit the kill screen. So I believe Billy Mitchell was the first person to play the perfect game of Pac-Man.
That's pretty crazy.
I'm not positive.
I mean, the most I've ever gotten in Pac-Man was like, maybe I got to level 2.
Yeah, I'm not very good at Pac-Man.
Me either.
I can get to level 2 though.
Probably yeah. If I just stretch it out a little bit, just give myself some time to get the rust off.
There's a Pac-Man 99 now.
I heard that they were doing that. Is it out?
You could check that out. Yeah, I think so. I saw Northern Lion playing it, so it's probably out.
Listen, I know this is a fad where you're making battle royales of games that were never meant to be, but I still think it's fucking cool. I love that these games are coming out like this.
I really like the Tetris 99 and Mario 35 and now Pac-Man 99 style. I think that's really cool.
Very fun.
The only thing about Pac-Man though is in Tetris and in Mario 35, there's like a very real feeling of impacting other people's games, Like when you get junk on your screen, someone sent that shit to you, and it's the junk, Or in Mario 35, you sent enemies to other people. Those are the enemies that they defeated, right? Pac-Man 99 doesn't really have that. There's not really, like, when you eat a ghost, it doesn't just send a ghost over to their game. I don't really know what it does weird stuff.
It doesn't feel faster?
As direct.
Like the ghost.
I think it's the opposite. I think you can like put stuff down on their screen that slows their Pac-Man down.
I thought you were gonna say that it literally just slows your Pac-Man's moving speed or something. That'd be terrible.
Yeah. I think it like puts shit down on their field that slows their Pac-Man.
No. I meant like no obstacles or anything like that. It literally just cuts your movement speed. I was like, that's shitty.
But so yeah, it seems. I'm glad they're trying it, but I don't know if it's quite the Tetris or Mario level of cool. But anyway, so that's cool. The other big Billy Mitchell accolade was he's very, very good at Donkey Kong for the arcade.
This is that's Super Mario Brothers, where Donkey Kong being the one where he's at the top and you're Mario dodging barrels. Yeah.
Yes. And so he has a lot of Donkey Kong scores and played it for a long time and has a lot of very good scores. Then they made that documentary, The King of Kong. Do you remember? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I haven't watched it though, but I think this is where I know its name from.
Yeah, yes. So he was prominently featured in the documentary The King of Kong, where the guy Steve Wiebe was trying to get the new record. And I think, I haven't actually seen the documentary. I think the result is that like Steve Wiebe gets the record, but then Billy Mitchell just beats it again. And like that's kind of where it ends, right? But not only does Billy Mitchell beat it again, he beats it with what might be the first ever 1,000,000-point score, right?
Damn.
So it's like a huge deal. However, that's where the documentary ends. But years later now, there was a big forum post about this score now, that the evidence put forth was that if you look at the footage frame by frame, I got to get the details right here because the details get very, very specific.
So we're looking at video evidence.
and
Is that what I'm hearing?
important. Yes.
Okay.
So
So it sounds like, was he just recording his arcade? Well, this is arcade Donkey Kong, right? Or NES
Yeah.
Donkey Kong. Okay.
arcade Donkey Kong.
So he's got a camera pointed at himself playing and getting a score that we. I laughed when you said this because when you said someone else gets the world record, he immediately beats it. And I'm just like, oh my God. Imagine being like, you know that you're going to be the top speedrunner. Imagine like fucking purposely taking a little bit of a time hit at the end if you know you have the record so you can just go in right next time full blast and just beat someone else if they beat yours.
Mm-hmm.
That's a funny strategy.
Yeah. So I'm very glad you asked specifically about the footage though, because no, it is not footage of him at an arcade machine playing the game. It is only the direct capture of the arcade board.
Ooh, what year is this?
So it was on VHS, and I think
it
was on VHS. I'm not sure. I want to say this was in the 2000s, but I'm not positive.
Man,
so
he must just be running. I'm sorry, I'm fascinated by this shit. He must just be running like a composite video out through a VCR, then I guess.
Yeah, I'm not positive how they do. Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing: is when you look at the game frame by frame, right? The way that the arcade loads the level from the evidence that was presented, it kind of loads it inward, like it kind of curtains in real quickly in like a few frames, right? But if you play the game on the MAME emulator, it kind of loads it more top down or in like a different order in those couple frames. And
well, you said frame by frame, so does that not imply that it's loading it top down?
Well, I don't mean line by line, like scan lines. I mean like it takes, like, you can visually see the level load in over the course of like 3 or 4 frames.
Oh, okay. So you're not talking about a single frame. Never mind. Go ahead. Yep.
Right. So when you look at the forum post that Jeremy someone made, presented the capture of Billy Mitchell's million score video. The level loading frames appear to match the MAME loading frames and not the actual real arcade hardware frames. And the reason that this is very important is that Donkey Kong has 2 leaderboards, and one of them is for real hardware and one of them is for MAME. They split it.
Love that.
And and Billy's scores were submitted to the real hardware board. So now there is question as to whether or not his stuff was played on MAME or if it was played on actual hardware. The evidence strongly suggests, in my opinion, that it was MAME.
Early 2000s, I mean, capture devices were nowhere near mainstream at that point. So
yeah, well, like you're saying, it may have. I'm not sure how it was captured. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not gonna shade how, you know, nerds back in the day had so much ingenuity that they could definitely capture something if they really wanted to. It's just I have my doubts based off the time.
Yeah. So this one kind of exploded a lot faster and got a lot more divisive, I think, because this is right after the Todd Rogers thing. And so there's one side of people immediately like, oh my God, another one, let's get him, while a lot of other people are like, hey, no, like this is a bigger name and we know that this guy is really good at video games and he was in this documentary and like, there people are much stronger pro Billy and other people are much stronger anti Billy, and it's at that point some other interesting things start to come up. First of all, in interviews and stuff, Billy Mitchell denies all this stuff. He says he never played on MAME. And he has a way of talking. He is much more well-spoken than Todd Rogers is. He's kind of the sort of the type that like is very confident, and just
just a very charismatic person.
Yeah, and it's just truth is I never played on MAME, and some people are better than other people at things, and I'm the best. He's kind of like that type, it seems, and so weird other Twin Galaxies stuff starts to happen. Like some of the questions about this. The thing is that there's actually 3 million point scores because he got this 1 million point score. And then he got another one, and then he got another one. And I'm actually not sure which one specifically was being analyzed in video, because I want to say that, like, 2 of them don't actually have video. Or no, 2 of them do have video. Okay, I might be getting some details wrong, but two of them have video, and they both appear to be MAME to someone like me. And then the other one doesn't have video, but it was verified by a referee.
Huh. Do we know who the ref is?
Oh, we know who the ref is. Take a guess.
How is
based
this?
On,
I thought he...
based on the story, take a guess who the ref was.
Well, it's not Billy Mitchell. But, like... Okay, so what is this? Is this still mid-80s? Because if Todd is still a ref,
this is like the 2000s, I think. But you're right. It was Todd.
Okay,
fucking Rogers was the ref that verified the tape that doesn't have its own video.
Is this where money is exchanging hands? Why is this happening?
So funny you should ask that, because it turns out that Billy Mitchell also seems to have a large financial stake in Twin Galaxies.
Oh, is this a public company? No.
I don't know what's public and what's private. Yeah. I don't really know what that means, honestly.
Oh, it means okay. So when in order to buy stocks of a company, they have to be listed publicly on a stock market. So that's what I mean. You can still be totally financially invested in a business and not be public. I was just curious if he had stock or if he just had a big, like, was he funding the company or?
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the details were, but like from what I've heard, and again, all this is like third and fourth hand, but it seemed to be that, like, yes, Twin Galaxies was financially benefiting from Billy Mitchell, and there may have even been,
were they sponsored?
Words, sponsored?
Yeah, but were they sponsored? But were video game esports sponsorships a thing back then? Like was Pepsi or some shit funding Billy Mitchell's?
I think this was back when, like, StarCraft was big in Korea, and that was it. You know what I mean? Remember those days?
I remember those days. I didn't play StarCraft, but I had a friend who did, and he said every time you load it up, there is nothing but, like, Korean matches, and he would always quit because he would always lose.
Yeah, right. Like that, back before we had an esports
Yeah.
scene, StarCraft was not so popular in Korea.
Absolutely.
And hey, maybe that's part of what we have to thank for it. Uh, but yeah, so it starts to get kind of confusing here because, um, so Billy Mitchell takes a few interviews where he's just denying that any of this is a thing, and that other guy is out to get him, and that kind of deal. Meanwhile, like the evidence that we are presented is very compelling, and he's not doing much to dissuade that. He's just kind of saying, "Nah, dude, it happened. I'm awesome. I'm really good at the game, and I did it. And it was great. There were a bunch of people there, and it was awesome."
There's something to be said about okay, if you're kind of like quoting him down to the cadence of his voice, there's something to be said of him seemingly just, I don't know, man. If I was that good at a video game, I'd be pissed if I got accused if I was cheating or some shit. He just seems like he's just calmly, smoothly talking it off, like, "Oh no, man, I'm just that good." And, he has to throw the attitude of, "Well, yeah, I'm the best. What do you expect?" Like he has to give that little macho bravado bit with it just to make it seem like he's very competitive. But it seems like, I don't know, man, if I worked that hard and got a score that literally was impossible, I'd be pretty pissed if people said I cheated.
In front of a camera, he's definitely very collected. But I don't know though. You start there's some seedy stories of just everyone who's kind of, I dealt with him outside of cameras, and it often is more I don't know, of course I don't know what his tone is or how collected he is in those conversations, but there's a lot of implications that he's like threatening to cut funding to Twin Galaxies and that kind of thing,
Wow. Man, this guy sounds like a real piece of work. I hate people who do that.
Allegedly.
Okay. I won't judge Billy Mitchell on the quality of his word when he said certain things. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. I think it's all alleged. We'll get into that.
Oh, so he allegedly cheated?
Well, see, this is the thing: is define cheated, because I'm not saying that he cheated at Donkey Kong. The problem is if he played on MAME. If he played on MAME, his score doesn't belong on the non-MAME leaderboard, whether or not he cheated. You know what I mean? That? Because they separate them out. Because,
you're just saying disqualified because of the wrong information. I was like, wait a minute, is there something hardware limitation that MAME can overcome? But no, that makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the thing, and that I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that that sort of makes the whole discussion about the topic a little muddy, is that anytime someone uses the word cheated, then that sort of gives Billy Mitchell a little bit more a little bit more power.
Yeah,
because
it seems like you're just
it
seems like you're just a fan who's going like, "Oh, fuck this guy just because he's better than me." It's like you don't come off as the bigger person. You go, "Oh, he cheated."
But because he might not have cheated, and whether or not he cheated can't be proven by the evidence that we have. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All that we can say is that the evidence strongly suggests that it was running on MAME, and that there's a different leaderboard for that. Anyway, we got a little bit more to get into. I mentioned Apollo Legend earlier. He actually flew out to a convention in Florida to meet Billy Mitchell because he was really into this story, especially after all the Todd Rogers stuff. And he went private investigator mode. I'm gonna go to this convention and meet him and pull out a camera or my phone and interview him on the spot.
I think I might have seen this actually. Yeah, go ahead.
And he did it. He was dressed up as Billy Mitchell while he did it. He went to the convention cosplaying him. And yeah, it's like he meets him, he shakes his hand, he takes they take a photo of him, and then he just pulls out a phone and says, "Hey, what's with and specifically what he says is one of the weird things about the situation is that so there was one day where one of the scores was apparently where Billy Mitchell set the world record for Donkey Kong, and then they swap out the board with the Donkey Kong Jr. board, and he sets the world record for Donkey Kong Jr., right? And I don't really know anything about those scores or whatever, but there's this video that they take between the two games where they say, we're swapping the boards out. Check it out, guys. He just did the thing. Now we're going to take the board out. Here's the other board. We're putting it in. And that's like a video that was on YouTube. But it really, really looks like it's the same board. It really, really, really looks like they didn't actually swap boards and it's fake. So, like they're falsifying evidence.
They're falsifying falsified evidence?
So when Apollo meets him, that's what he asks him. He pulls out his phone and says, "So what's with that fake board swap video?"
Oh, okay.
And Billy is like a little caught off guard, and he's just like, "What?" What he does is he says, "What's with the fake board swap video? He'll tell you about it," and like points to this other guy. I think the other guy that was in the video. He'll tell you about it, and then Billy Mitchell just fucking leaves the room.
Oh,
and then the other guys, well, you know, he stammers through and he explains that it was a YouTube moment, and so basically it was so exciting that he was setting these records that we just had to fake the sports swap video. Is like basically the answer that he gives.
YouTube moment.
So that's like.
You reminded me of when you said he came to the show dressed as Billy Mitchell. I'm trying to imagine like Billy Mitchell. So he was already talking to the guy before he asked him that question. Never mind. I thought he just kind of like randomly walked up to him and asked him that. And the first thought that has to go through his head is, "Why are you dressed like me?"
Well, I mean that it was pretty brief. I think he sees him and hi, handshake, photo, like it, but he gets into it pretty quick.
It just reminds me of that. Like, this is a little off topic, but the creator of a website called Bum Fights a long time ago, which was just this dark website. I don't recommend looking into it. The creator of it went on Dr. Phil, but when he went on Dr. Phil, he came on dressed exactly like Dr. Phil and shaved his head and everything. Fucking gold. I recommend watching that shit. It's hilarious. But yeah, so he came there thinking if he dresses like Billy Mitchell, maybe will he be able to get in places that Billy can get into, I guess, that other people can't?
No, he did not look like him.
Okay.
So that's a funny thing. And then, oh boy. So then things start to get, starts to kind of take a turn for the worse with this story. So Guinness picks up on all this, and if I remember right, Guinness takes his record away. However, they make a fatal mistake. Guinness takes away Billy Mitchell's records, including his Pac-Man records, because if I think their idea was, hey, if this one thing wasn't legit, then they're done with all of his records, right? However, on their next book that they released, there was a little blurb in there that said, hey, you might realize that Billy Mitchell's gone. Here's what happened. We found out that maybe his Donkey Kong and Pac-Man games were played on MAME. Big problem there. No one is disputing the Pac-Man. No one's disputing the Pac-Man scores is the problem.
Oh.
You are right that most people reading a Guinness book don't care, and they don't know what it means.
Yeah.
I don't know what the wording specifically was, but the problem was that they said that both Pac-Man and Donkey Kong were disputed. No one is disputing Pac-Man, boom, that's the scene that Billy Mitchell strikes, sues Guinness,
Oh.
and gets his shit reinstated. So with Guinness, his stuff is reinstated. But now,
Hang on. Can we go back to earlier when you talked about how Pac-Man has a kill screen? And I thought you said he got a score higher than that. Is that not something that people wanted to investigate? Nobody was disputing his Pac-Man score?
His Pac-Man score is the perfect Pac-Man score.
Oh,
it's
okay,
not
never
above
mind.
it or
He
anything
got
like
to
that.
screen. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't have all these details exactly right. But I think the taking Guinness to court, they probably settled out of court. I think it was a settlement that he got his stuff back. Don't know. Point is, he got his stuff back with Guinness. However, he also maybe only threatened to, but no, he at least threatened to sue Apollo Legend for defamation and that kind of thing. Also, went on, there's another big YouTuber, Carl Jobst, who's covering a lot of this stuff. And Billy has allegedly threatened to sue him as well, which is a little harder because Carl is in Australia, but apparently he has an Australian lawyer. Funny thing about that, you know who else is Australian? Notch, creator of Minecraft.
Oh.
Very, very, very wealthy person who on Twitter today actually, because Carl's latest video about this subject actually just came out like yesterday. And so when he mentioned the thing about him being threatened to be sued, Notch on Twitter says, "Hey Carl, if he tries to sue you, just hit me up. I'll pay your legal fees."
Damn. I knew the name Notch too. I didn't know he was the creator of Minecraft.
Yeah. So I think I'm missing some other stuff, but this is where we get into like the dark side. Which, warning, like there's heavy shit here.
Really?
Where so Billy Mitchell is sort of historically known for being litigious. He tried to sue Cartoon Network because they made a parody of him on the regular show.
Whoa. Damn.
And so yeah, so there was a thing with Guinness, there was a thing with Carl Jobst. He threatened to sue Apollo Legend.
Man,
then
he must just have a lawyer that's just bloodthirsty.
Yeah. And then there's another thing though, where now Twin Galaxies is suing Billy Mitchell because Twin Galaxies at some point got their shit together. I kind of skipped over that. They have new management now. The old guy who was defending Todd Rogers and defending Billy at first, he was like the guy that started Twin Galaxies way back when. And honestly, like what it sounds like to me is that Twin Galaxies was basically founded as, you know, those kids on the playground that would like lie about all the things they could do in video games, when you're in elementary school.
I didn't talk to anyone when I was in elementary school.
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you, there were some liars in elementary school.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
That they just make shit up about games, you know. Oh man, oh god.
And then it devolves to my dad can beat up your dad.
My cousin told me that in Mario 64 you can punch Bowser's head off. Shit like this, right? And so to me, it's like Twin Galaxies it kind of sounded like they were those kids that then like started the company that somehow became the authority, right? But they're those people, is what it seemed like. But now they do have a new management, and the new management, like when they saw the evidence about the Billy Mitchell case, he was gone there pretty quickly. And now they are suing him over, the I don't know. I'm not sure exactly.
So why is he suing so many people?
So defamation is the big thing. Like it
Okay.
seems like the
So-
guy.
I'm
He
sorry.
does not.
It sounds like he's just like, I did this shit. I'm badass, and if you say I'm not, I'm coming after you. Basically.
He does not seem to be able to disprove the evidence against him. And so instead, he seems to be taking the approach of suing everybody for defamation.
I mean, look, you'll probably get more money out of suing people. So,
and it it already worked against Guinness,
Yeah.
where they gave him his shit back. And then Apollo Legend, it worked with him as well. I don't think a sue actually happened with him. I'm not sure, but it was stated somewhere that he came to an agreement with Billy Mitchell where they shouldn't get involved legally, and he had to delete all of his videos about Billy, and I think Billy owns them now. Like he had to turn them over to him, and I believe there was also a cash settlement involved. Maybe, I'm not sure, but it seems like it. Because, and this is where shit gets like super way too real, is that when you bring in lawsuits against someone like a YouTuber, they're not prepared for it. Like, it's a very good point what you're saying, where there's probably money that you can get out of suing over this kind of thing. Because a lot of the time, if you sue someone for $1 million, it's a lot easier for them to settle out of court and give you some money rather than pay their lawyer a bunch more money in order to have to pay you nothing, right?
Yep.
And so with just when it goes down to small YouTubers, it has like serious effects on their lives. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Because especially like these people, I mean, YouTubers, that not only do they have not that great of an income, especially early in their career, but it's also not even stable. So sometimes you just don't get paid.
Yep, exactly. And like Apollo was kind of known for having health issues where he tried to put together like a speed run marathon at some point to what's the word when you're like up against them, like they're going at the same time, and my show's better, compete to kind of compete with GDQ. Like he kind of wanted to make a competition for GDQ, but like because of health issues, both physical and mental, and other things, he kind of had to like cancel that and refund everybody their money who donated to it and stuff like that. And so yeah, like he very much seemed like someone who wasn't equipped to handle that kind of thing. And I found out recently that Apollo Legend is no longer alive.
Oh no.
Yeah. In the worst way that you can imagine. He took his own life. And so as far as he goes, he didn't say it was because of this, all the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
He said it was about physical and mental illness, right? And that it did not have to do with other things.
Well, things lead up to cause those things. So
yes, like the thing is with the timing of it and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine that like being threatened for large sums of money that you don't have can really fuck up the way that you're thinking about the problems that you already have. So shit like that, super nasty. And so like a downright fucking tragedy. And so it
did he face
really
any backlash over this? Did Billy face any backlash over, like, did was the news of this person's suicide, did it go large? Because
I think it just did. Carl
oh
Jobs mentioned it in his video yesterday. It happened about 6 months ago.
oh
And
damn, this is recent.
yes, and I
Fuck.
didn't hear about it until yesterday. I did, to me, it was just, to me, like Apollo was kind of known for taking long breaks from Twitter and from YouTube and stuff because like he couldn't handle shit for a while, and people were pretty fucking nasty to him a lot of the time because of some of like because a lot of what he did had to do with like drama and cheaters in the speedrunning scene and stuff, and so a lot of the time it was topics that people were very divisive on and people thought he was attacking people a lot,
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
people kind of attacked him back a lot. People were fucking nasty to him a lot
Dude,
of the time.
and no one's no human alive was evolved enough to be able to withstand that. Like, and even like a small YouTuber who puts out an off video that can go viral, and you get thousands of hate comments. The human brain isn't meant to deal with you taking every one of those usernames and assigning like an actual person to it, pissed off at you for the simple fact of you trying to do something with your life. It's not a good mental space to be in. That fucking blows.
Yeah, so he was kind of known for just taking breaks
Yeah,
sometimes,
you'd need to.
and yeah. So when I didn't see anything on Twitter or YouTube from him for 6 months, I just thought, he'll be back. But then that was the news yesterday. So it really sucks. Because I really liked his stuff. I mean, I didn't always agree with it,
Oh,
but
so you actually followed this guy's content and everything.
yeah, he got
Man.
me into like this whole side of like really kind of looking at sort of the politics of speedrunning almost. I thought that shit was really interesting, and it was because of his old stuff up specifically about Todd Rogers that really kind of got me into it. Um and yeah, and I like a lot of people, I didn't agree with everything he said because, sometimes it seemed like, hey, you're jumping the gun a little bit quickly here on this one and that kind of thing. But like, I don't know. That's no reason to be nasty to a person.
And to some degree, that is literally just a YouTuber trying to be relevant with the news and create a video that will even get seen by people because of YouTube's algorithms and such.
Yeah. Right. And that's an accusation that gets thrown around a lot. Is this clickbait? Oh, you're just raising drama for clickbait.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing.
and another thing is people don't know what the fuck clickbait is. Clickbait is you see a thumbnail and a title that clearly says something, and the subject matter of the entire video is not that. That's clickbait.
Yeah.
But people
Right.
just making a dramatic title or wording it in a way that makes it seem like it's the opposite side of the premise, it's not fucking clickbait.
Right. Or just overreacting to something or that kind of
That
thing.
too, yeah.
It's right. So yeah, I kind of lost where I was here.
So
'cause-
this YouTuber had taken his own life because he was threatened by Billy Mitchell.
I would avoid.
Okay, no, sorry, we're not going to
I
make
would
that
avoid
jump.
the
Yeah,
direct
I'm just saying
causality there.
this is the stream of your narrative that's come to me is what I'm hearing. Not that
There
I'm
you go.
Not
Yeah,
saying that
I
as a
would
matter
say
of fact. Let's clarify that.
Right.
And by the way, you
Um,
said 6 months ago. I just wanted to clarify for the audio listeners, if anyone's obviously not listening to this today or tomorrow, it is only the end of May here. So it's 6 months ago was December around Christmas, basically.
Yep.
Which is
Yeah.
ugh.
So right. So in his last video, where it was his final video. He never mentioned Billy's name. And went out of his way to really say that it was about mental and physical issues.
Wait. Was this a video he put on YouTube explaining his reasons for taking a
Yes.
break, I assume, or
No.
suicide?
Yes. Which YouTube then took down.
I was going to
But,
say this can't still be up.
they took it off.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Fuck, damn, that sucks.
Yeah. So the reason that all of this came back up, and that there's even like a new Carl Jobs video is that so Todd Rogers is back now,
Okay.
and he's suing Twin Galaxies now. And it really sucks because like the whole conversation used to be super fun, you know? Like what are these guys doing next, you know? But when it gets into the lawsuits, and especially with like people and not companies and stuff,
Yeah.
it has way too major of an impact. And
It's a little
so
close too.
yeah,
Here we are as video content creators talking about this. It's rough.
yeah. Now we can laugh a little bit about Todd's lawsuit though, because it's against Twin Galaxies, right? Like the company, they're equipped to deal with it. And
I mean, are they? What year is this lawsuit now?
this is new. This is a new.
This is like
thing.
in the year 2021.
Yeah.
So Twin Galaxies
back.
is still functioning.
Yeah, and they're under new management, like I was saying, and they are suing Billy Mitchell over that whole mess. So they're suing him.
You got to sue Billy Mitchell so you can get the money to pay the lawsuit to Todd Rogers.
But then Todd Rogers is suing Twin Galaxies, and oh boy, it's a mess. His lawsuit, it's a fucking disaster. First of all,
Does he
title
even have a
of the
case?
video. Say what?
Does he even have a case?
Dude, the front page of his lawsuit says that his name is Todd Togers.
I was gonna say, why is that the name of the video? I was like, why is it called Todd Togers? Okay, so he's suing them because not because they called him out on his cheating, but because they got his name wrong.
No.
Okay.
His lawsuit is a very poorly worded and poorly put together disaster.
Oh, so this is from his end.
Yeah, saying that I don't know that I don't even know. His record should be reinstated, or they defamed him. I think he wants $500,000 is what it is.
My God.
For defamation and stuff because he can't make a career off fake video game scores anymore. So that's the latest on that, and that's the story. That's where we're at right now. That is the long history of these two particular individuals and their dealings with Twin Galaxies, and how there's a lot of funny stuff in there. And I would really recommend looking up that Ben Heck Show video with Todd Rogers on it. It's hilarious. But there are elements recently that are extremely unfortunate. And again, I not to draw a total causality thing here, but I can't help but relate
Connect
the
dots,
events of someone being sued and then not being able to handle it when they already are under a lot of physical and mental pain.
I also, just trying to put myself in this YouTuber's shoes, I also just completely see that if you knew you were going to go through with this, especially if you were going to make a video about it, you definitely don't want to put it out there that it was a certain thing or person that caused it, because then it just, man, it doesn't look good for anyone in the situation. Obviously, it wasn't going to begin with, but it looks even worse in that there's a lot of, I don't want to even talk about it. There's a lot of complexity to what I'm talking about, and essentially what I'm trying to say is it doesn't come off as good looking for you or for anyone else. Even if you're not concerned with it, you don't want to be known as the guy that did that because of this. And to his credit, it's probably very true what he's saying. It is not because of that. It's because of mental health issues. But I'm on the same boat as you with this. As much as I know now, it's how do you get from point A to point B, mental health issues and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And on that note, yeah, to some degree, like I'm even sorry to kind of even bring it up. It's like because it's such a heavy thing that I'm not necessarily equipped to talk about, but it's just that it's part of the story now.
No, I mean, I don't think it's
And
bad to bring it up. I think it's
yeah,
important because it kind of highlights that even dumb shit that people do and possibly allegedly fake can have serious repercussions. Even if you think it's just a video game in 1983. I mean, 19. Okay, listen. I was born in '89, basically 1990. I can't pretend to know to be from that time, but growing up in the early 90s before the internet, it was still a time of, exactly as you said, being that kid on the playground who will lie his head off about video games because no one is going to verify that, and you just want to seem cool to your classmates and such. It's not something that I think you really see a negative downside of until, unfortunately, much later in life, when if you're still pulling the same kind of shit, albeit pre-internet, so you still don't even think there'd be repercussions. It still can. It's like the butterfly effect, fucking chaos theory. One small thing you do is going to have massive repercussions in another area later on.
yeah, yeah, and I should also say, like, I'm not totally opposed to talking about it either, just because he was someone I followed, and I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff he made, and I thought the things he talked about was super important, and he was
Yeah.
always like pretty well spoken too. One thing, like when I first saw his videos, the thing, like the immediate thing as someone who like tries to make YouTube videos every once in a while, that I noticed about his stuff that I took away from it is that you click on one of his videos and he's talking about the subject immediately. He's just, the first sentence is talking about the subject. There's no, hey
Hey, it's your
guys,
boy.
hey guys, today we're talking about this. Like it's like a video, it's like an essay, boom, get
Have
that
you heard
hook
of
sentence in there.
Yeah, have you heard of the rule of thirds? Not in relation to photography.
I've
It's
heard
the
of the threes in comedy.
yeah, kind of similar a little bit. It's where it's specifically about YouTube. The rule is you can go to any YouTube video and, on average, click to the part of the timestamp that would be exactly 33% into the video and not miss any important content and forgo any awful intros, and you'll basically be brought to right to the meat of what you want, within reason of you can probably go back a couple seconds and then get everything.
Let me give you a hot tip. If you press 3 on your number pad, you will go 30% into the video.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot with hotkeys and such with YouTube. I know they've been doing a lot with that though, especially in studio. I think M does something to, like, they have a whole bunch of keys that do things in YouTube Studio. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, all of the your number pad, each number on the number pad brings you to that percentage
Nice.
times 10, which I know because I accidentally hit 0 and start videos over all the time.
Oh,
So
damn.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's with YouTube videos specifically. I wonder if there's a hotkey to change like the playback speed. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. But there you go. So yeah, so the latest on the whole thing as well. Todd Rogers is back with a lawsuit. We haven't heard from him for 2 years after, when his shit. That's the thing, is when his shit got taken off, he just disappeared. While Billy Mitchell, like, he's been staying and fighting and suing, the whole time. But now Todd's back.
I think when you told me about Guinness removing Billy Mitchell's record, I think that's the first time I heard of him, because I'd heard the name before that, and I always knew it to be closely associated with Pac-Man. But yeah, I see what you mean now. It's because of that not being correct and that being a controversy.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's oof. Man, some of if any of this is interesting to you, I'd recommend going on a little YouTube adventure and finding like as much of the stuff about this as you can, just because like the I want people to put it together for themselves, you know. Everything I'm saying, it's a lot of alleged stuff, a lot of the evidence seems to suggest this, you know. Uh so I would enjoy it, you know, if other people came to their own conclusions as well.
Yeah, man, that's a. I'm trying to think of like other instances that I can point to of that where they were just really famous, but I think it's pretty much just that that's coming to my mind because it was so early on, I guess, in video game history, where these people get known as like the first fraudsters, I guess you could say, where they just at a time where video evidence or any kind of evidence is just harder to come by. I guess it's going to be ripe with fraud and all that. I mean, they are either way. Both of these people still had to be pretty good at the video game itself in order to just be able to demonstrate to people in real life. Hey, yeah, look here, I got this score this one time. Here, let's come talk about it. I'll play some Pac-Man. You guys watch me play it. They had to be convincing.
For sure. Yeah, like totally. Like, you know, no one's really said, well, I don't know if Todd Rogers is any good at anything, but
based off his name.
Well, nah, based on just how bullshit all his scores were, and also based on like any video you can find of him actually playing Dragster, he doesn't know, like, he looks like what the fuck he's doing at all.
That's his secret.
But Billy, on the other hand, though, like, I mean, he definitely knows how to play Donkey Kong. It's just, you know, the issue is it appears he was on MAME, and for some reason he's hiding that. Why would that be, right? Why would that be?
Yeah.
Why would you hide it?
Yeah, I mean, trying to play devil's advocate here, thinking about the scenario in which you described it. Based off of what you said, it's hard to make a case, but did you say was this in like a bar or a convention, or where did this encounter take place?
There's like 3 different. Which encounter are you talking about?
The one where you're like, hey, what about that fake board swap? And then he goes, hey, he can tell you about that many runs.
Yeah. So that was in Florida. It was at a convention in Florida, I believe.
Was he actively trying to leave the building at the time? Or was he just chilling and then ditched?
Yeah.
Okay,
definitely that. He goes into another room.
It seems like suing people might just be all he has, man. if he's really cheated all the time, based on the definition of cheat. It
appears that way.
Yeah. We don't know what could be going on in Billy Mitchell's life. It's important to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think it's important to give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. Like, I'm thinking, like, if I were to give him as much benefit of the doubt as I can, I would think, okay, what if the arcade machine that he bought, it was from a shady dealer and it's MAME and he doesn't know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
But when it comes up, investigate that, you know?
Okay, but think about it this way. You say you buy a jank arcade machine with MAME in it or whatever. You do all the work to get a high score. Let's assume that he did. He gets it, and then he shows it off, the video evidence, yada yada. And then this guy all of a sudden comes out. That record was set in the 80s, I think. And
we're talking about Donkey Kong?
Yeah.
This was in the 2000s, I think.
Oh, okay. So even more benefit of the doubt.
He's
got a lot of time of practice on his hands then, playing Donkey Kong.
Yeah, like a lot of no one's debating any of his like other scores that were like in like the 900,000s and stuff. I don't
Okay.
think anyone's debating any of that. It
So
was just when King of Kong was made and Steve Wiebe beat his score and he immediately responded with the first million-point score ever.
yeah.
That's the suspicious one.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I see that. Because how big of a gap did he win again by?
Not very much.
Okay.
Like it broke the million threshold, and that was a really big deal. And then I want to say there was like probably 50,000 more on top of that, which is significant. It's significant, but it wasn't like ridiculous. It wasn't like 1,200,000. It wasn't like ridiculous. It wasn't a Todd Rogers score.
Yeah, it seems like Billy's got like a pretty sizable hill of other high scores that at least have gone unchallenged as totally legit. And he's playing Atari games 2 decades after they have gone out of fashion. So he's got some time to practice. I mean, hell,
Donkey Kong's arcade.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he still
Okay,
had it
go on.
for a long
All right,
time.
Go on.
Like I myself play games that are from 2 decades ago. I'm not because I played them back then. It's just because I like them now. But like, there's still plenty of case to be made that in the time that it takes for him to make that score, and the time that it takes for him to just get a machine, a hold of a machine that'll do it for him. In the early 2000s, MAME was totally a thing. It was thriving, right? So like. I think that actually could be probably one of the biggest things in his favor is what if he just, I mean, he didn't show the cabinet. He didn't show him getting the score.
Fake board swap video, though. That wasn't MAME. That was a real-ass arcade board.
Okay, yeah. Let's go back to this. So when you said fake board swap, for some reason, I was thinking high scoreboard, meaning like a picture or capture of the high score.
No,
You're
they
saying
show them opening up the arcade cabinet, unplugging the Donkey Kong Jr. board or maybe the Donkey Kong board and taking it out, bringing the other board back in, except that other board, it looks identical.
So
and then when questioned about it,
why was the video made? Was there a fault in the original board?
No, it was because he was saying that he got the new world record in either Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr. I don't remember which one was first, but they were swapping the board, so now he's going to get the record in the other one. And that was the story, was that he got both records in one day.
So 2 different games?
Yeah, Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr.
Okay, so he was just
and so the video
loading
is
it
of
to
them
change
swapping
games.
the boards.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that makes sense. And that was proven to be fake?
Well, I mean, it's hard to prove anything, right? But when questioned about it, I would say, in my opinion, they behaved very suspiciously.
Yeah, thinking about I think about things one piece at a time. Sorry, but going back to his reaction, man, it's not just one of those. Hey, I gotta get out of here. He'll tell you about that. I'll see you later. It was one of those just like, no, he wasn't out to get a dinner date. He was dine and dashing.
Also, like at some point they removed all the audio from the YouTube video also because it was on YouTube. And like after once suspicion started to rise about like what's with this video and why does it seem fake, all of a sudden that video was mute on YouTube after that, so you couldn't hear what they were saying anymore.
It didn't have any music in it, did it?
No.
If it had music, it could have been a copyright strike, and then they had to mute it. Yeah. What? Now that leads me to believe aside from dialogue, what could be sound-wise happening that would lead you to think that this is fake?
Well, the fact that they are explaining explicitly what is happening. They're saying this is what we're doing and here's why we're doing it, as they're doing the thing. So, you take that context out and now it's just, well, I don't know, it's a video where he takes a board out and puts it back in.
Yeah. It's really the hardest part to give him the benefit of the doubt on.
So yeah. It's that thing where it's like, you can give him as much benefit of the doubt as you can. I just don't think that he's behaving in a way that an innocent person would.
Do you think we can meet him at like PAX or something, and we'll dress as the guy who dressed like Billy Mitchell and go up to him, and if we go, hey, what's up with that video muting?
Well,
it's just a little too meta, maybe.
maybe. But yeah, so that's that. What I feel like there was one other thing about it at the very end there with what you were saying. Oh yeah, and also just the fact that like once again, you know, it's like again, if he's innocent, the accusation is that it's on MAME, right? He doesn't like that seems like a thing that you could investigate a little bit better than what they've attempted to do instead of just denial and lawsuits. So,
well,
there you go.
It's
hopefully this YouTube video survives. Hopefully we don't get it taken down.
Well, we won't get it demonetized because we don't have enough people to monetize yet. But, you know, maybe hopefully soon, which you guys can actually help out with. So if you guys listening right now are listening, you're probably not watching it on YouTube. But if you want, we do have a YouTube channel, and you should subscribe to it. Just saying.
Don't hit the bell, though. For the love of God, don't hit that fucking bell.
Who uses the bell?
I don't want to be responsible for your phone going off when it's 2 a.m. and I decide to fucking upload something.
Yeah, don't hit the bell. I don't even know if that works. Every channel I hear that says hit the bell icon, they're the same people who say our videos don't get noticed by anyone, and meanwhile the videos that say our videos don't get noticed by anyone are on my front fucking page every time. So no,
we've noticed that a lot of the people listening aren't subscribed. What's the deal with that? Like, oh god, I'm so sick of hearing all that shit.
That's always going to be a thing. It's mostly just watch time that we need. So I say subscribe because that's a thing you do on YouTube. But if you just watch us on YouTube, we appreciate it. We need those watch hours.
You just live your lives, all right? You know, if we're part of it, cool. You know how to do things to get more of us if you want it. We don't gotta tell you.
You can be the good cop in this situation. I'm gonna be the bad cop who just plopped his dick out on the table right now and told you to do what you need to do. But anyway, so I don't know where to land on either of these. I'm going to probably watch these videos myself, and you want to link them in the description, actually. We can just kind of say, hey, here's the Todd Togers going, and here's his squirrely voice, and then we can also probably link the video to Billy Mitchell.
Yeah, I would recommend checking it out. I think the evidence is very compelling, and you know, I hope you do too.
Yeah. You want to cut it off on that tonight?
Yeah, that's good for me.
All right. Well,
we started a little bit late. We went a little bit late too.
Yeah, it's all hunky dory from me. I'm gonna go and pass out. I think you are too. Everyone, you guys have been great. I think you guys have been the loudest audience we've had. It's awesome. But yeah, I'm Invictus Knox, and who is this handsome person next to me?
I'm Dash Retro.
And we can be found around the internet with those names. And if you see the video, you'll see our names in there. So there you go. Peace, guys. You guys have been awesome. Later. Thanks for downloading.